You feel it, don't you? That slow draining, not of your blood, but of something deeper. It's like someone reached inside and gently pulled a thread from your soul, again and again, until you forgot what wholeness even felt like. She doesn't shout. She doesn't demand. She just stands there, radiant, magnetic, impossible to resist. And somehow, the air bends around her. You think you chose her, but no. Something ancient inside you did. Carl Jung would say it's not really her who pulls your energy. It's your own shadow, projected, alive, wearing her face. She mirrors the parts of you that you never dared to meet. The hunger, the fear, the desire to be seen. Every glance, every word she breathes, pulls those forgotten fragments closer. You confuse that pull with love, but it's gravity, the gravity of your own unconscious, and it's merciless. You start changing without noticing. Your voice gets quieter. Your thoughts revolve around her orbit. You call it obsession. Jung called it possession by an archetype. Because once the shadow wears a human body, it rules you from the inside. You see, she doesn't need to take anything. You offer it. Every ounce of attention, every piece of vitality. You pour it into her, hoping she'll fill the emptiness you're too afraid to face alone. But emptiness cannot be filled by another. It only echoes louder. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's what's happening to you right now. You call it love, you call it destiny, but what you're really feeling is your own psyche begging to wake up. The energy she drains is not stolen, it's reflected, because deep down, you've forgotten how to keep your own fire burning. You mistook her light for your salvation. You didn't realize it was your own light bouncing back from the mirror of her being. And when you walk away, when you finally say, I can't do this anymore, the world feels empty, gray, lifeless. Because she carried your projection, your soul's color, and now that she's gone, you think it's lost. But it isn't. It never left. It's waiting for you to reclaim it. That's the paradox of the energy sucker. They don't actually steal your soul. They reveal how disconnected you've been from it. They force you to see what you gave away freely for the illusion of connection. And when you realize that, something breaks and something begins. You start noticing the silence, the stillness. At first, it's terrifying, like standing in the ruins of yourself. But slowly, you start hearing something underneath the noise. A pulse, a whisper. Your own energy coming back. She was never the monster. She was the mirror. The one who carried your unconscious on her skin until you had the courage to see it yourself. And maybe that's the cruelest kind of love there is. You begin to realize something unsettling. It wasn't only her that fed on your light. It was everyone you ever tried to save. Every friend, every lover, every broken soul you tried to hold together so you wouldn't have to face your own fractures. You've been leaking energy for years. Not because people took it, but because you believed you had to earn your right to exist by keeping others alive. Jung called that the inflation of the ego, the savior complex, the illusion that your value is in what you give, not in what you are. And when you meet someone who embodies that need perfectly, someone who receives endlessly, beautifully, effortlessly. It feels divine until it feels fatal. The more you give, the less you feel yourself. You start mistaking exhaustion for devotion. You think, if I love harder, maybe she'll stay. If I give everything, maybe I'll finally be enough. But love, built on depletion, is just self-erasure in disguise. You stop sleeping. You replay her words. The mind becomes a looping film of moments that once felt holy. And in the middle of that loop, your energy keeps circling, trapped between fantasy and fear. That's what Jung meant by possession. When an archetype, the anima, the seductress, the rescuer, the victim, takes over the psyche, you no longer act. You're being acted through. You become a stage for forces older than your name. And she becomes the actress playing your shadow. You start hearing her voice, even when she isn't there. You sense her presence in songs, in dreams, in silence. It's not her you're haunted by. It's the part of yourself you buried long ago. The part that wants, the part that burns, the part that knows it's alive. Energy doesn't disappear, it transforms. And what you call drained is actually redirected, flowing through the channels of projection, feeding the image you built in her likeness. To reclaim it, you don't fight her. You face yourself. You sit in the dark room. You breathe. You feel the ache without naming it. You let the emptiness speak. At first, all you hear is noise. Then a memory of laughter, of color, of being whole before the world taught you to split in two. That memory is the key, because once you remember who you were before the draining began, you can start calling your energy back. It comes slowly, through solitude, through small acts of truth, through saying no without guilt and yes without fear, through the quiet realization that peace was never supposed to be dramatic. Jung would call this individuation, the reunion of what was scattered. It's the moment the soul stops chasing its reflection and starts inhabiting its own skin again. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, but it's sacred. Because the moment you stop searching for someone to complete you, the very energy you thought she stole returns. Not as fire, but as light. Not as obsession, but as awareness. And awareness is the real power. You see now, she wasn't your punishment. She was your teacher. A mirror so merciless that you had to wake up. You start to sense that recovery isn't about cutting her out. It's about cutting the cord. Because she was never the problem. The cord was. That invisible thread made of need, fear, and fascination that tied your worth to her attention. Every text, every silence, every tiny shift in her mood used to control your weather. Now, you begin to reclaim your climate. You wake one morning, and the air feels different. Still heavy, yes, but cleaner somehow. You breathe without waiting for permission. You make coffee without thinking of her hands. That's how energy returns, quietly, through ordinary moments. People think healing is a grand event. It's not. It's 1,000 tiny resurrections disguised as boredom. It's remembering your favorite song and realizing it still sounds good without her in the room. It's noticing that the sunlight hits your wall exactly the same way it always did. You just never looked at it before. Jung said that what you resist not only persists, it grows. So you stop resisting the loneliness. You let it speak. And slowly, you understand that loneliness isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of yourself, unshared. You sit with that presence. At first, it feels unbearable because it's raw, unfiltered. But beneath it is something ancient and steady. A hum that was always yours. That hum is your psychic energy reorganizing, returning. Rewiring the circuits that were once tangled around her. You begin to forgive yourself. Not for trusting her, but for abandoning yourself in the process. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, it reclaims your authorship. You rewrite the story. Not she drained me, but I learned where my boundaries end and my soul begins. The world tests you. Another person arrives, charming, magnetic, familiar in the worst way. You feel that pull again, that gravitational ache. But this time, you pause. You recognize the pattern. You smile, half in fear, half in wisdom. Because you know the difference between attraction and possession now. You still feel tempted, of course. The psyche loves repetition. It calls it fate. But awareness breaks the spell. You look at them and see not salvation, but reflection. You thank them silently for the lesson and walk away before your light bends again. Every time you choose yourself, the cord weakens. Every time you honor your energy, the mirror cracks. And through those cracks, light escapes. That's how wholeness happens. Not by sealing the fractures, but by letting light pass through them. And one day, maybe years later, you meet her again. She smiles. The same smile that once burned you alive. But something's changed. You don't feel the drain anymore. You feel calm, grounded, because the energy that once fed her now roots inside you. You talk, you listen. There's no revenge, no longing, only clarity. You realize she never needed to apologize. You already took back what mattered. She says, "You've changed," and you smile, because that's the truth. You became someone who no longer confuses intensity with intimacy. Someone who no longer mistakes chaos for connection. Someone who knows that love without boundaries isn't love, it's surrender. The past becomes lighter. Not forgotten, but integrated, like a scar that proves survival. And deep down, you feel gratitude. Not for the pain, but for the awakening it forced upon you. That's the secret Jung never shouted, but always implied. The people who break you are often the ones who bring you home, because they awaken the archetype that sleeps the deepest, the self. And the self doesn't feed on others, it feeds on truth. Time softens everything that once felt sharp. You begin to see the pattern not as a curse, but as a map. Every person who crossed your path, every exchange of energy, every heartbreak, all of it was pointing you inward, pointing you toward the place you once abandoned, your own center. You realize now that the universe doesn't take sides. It mirrors states of consciousness. When you lived in scarcity, you met takers. When you lived in confusion, you met mirrors that distorted you. And when you begin to live in awareness, you meet souls that reflect your clarity. The draining stops, not because the world changes, but because you stop feeding illusions. You no longer need validation to know you're real. You no longer trade your silence for attention. You no longer chase the storm to prove you can survive it. Energy follows attention, always. And now your attention belongs to yourself again. You feel it when you walk, when you breathe, when you speak. Every word carries weight. Every pause carries peace. You begin to notice how presence itself attracts what force once chased. People sense it. They approach differently, gently, curiously, without hunger. Because when you are whole, you no longer invite consumption, you invite resonance. That's what Jung meant when he spoke of the self, the union of conscious and unconscious, the meeting of shadow and light. It isn't perfection, it's participation. It's being fully here, unmasked, unborrowed, alive. Sometimes, at night, you still feel that old ache, the ghost of her name, the echo of her eyes. But now it doesn't hurt, it hums, like a distant memory of music you once danced to, a song that taught you rhythm by breaking your steps. You whisper thank you, not out of sentiment, but out of understanding. Because without her, you might never have met yourself. Without the draining, you might never have learned to generate your own light. You remember Jung's idea of the conjunctio, the sacred union, not between lovers, but between opposites within you, masculine and feminine, shadow and ego, chaos and order. That union is the real love story, and every external story was only a rehearsal for it. You start living differently. You move slower. You choose words that taste honest. You keep fewer people, but deeper ones. You protect your peace like oxygen, not from fear, but from wisdom. The world keeps spinning, loud and hungry, but you walk through it like a quiet flame. You give without depletion. You listen without losing yourself. You love without leaving yourself behind. And when someone new enters your life, you don't ask, will they complete me? You ask, will they grow with me? Because completion was never the goal, consciousness was. So if one day someone looks at you and says, you have such calm energy, you'll smile, maybe a little sadly, because you'll know what it cost to find it. It cost illusions, obsessions, projections. It cost the version of you that believed love meant sacrifice. It cost every piece of yourself you once gave away. But what you gained is priceless: clarity, wholeness, freedom. And when you look back, you won't see her as the villain anymore. You'll see her as the gatekeeper, the one who stood at the threshold between your unconscious and your becoming. She didn't steal your energy. She helped you see where it was leaking. She forced you to learn what boundaries mean. She awakened the fire that you now call peace. So breathe one more time. Feel the air move through the space that used to ache. That's your energy. not lost, not stolen, just transformed. And if ever again someone comes along and tries to feed on your light, you won't panic. You'll smile softly, because now you know. No one can drain what's already full of awareness. No one can take what you've learned to embody. You'll simply step back, stay still, and let their hunger pass through you like wind through glass. Untouched, transparent, free. And in that silence, you'll hear it again. The hum of your own soul, steady and endless. That's the sound of power reclaimed. That's the sound of you.